Welcome to the Mindset on Resilience podcast. We're building a more confident, resilient, and mentally strong community. I am your host, Daniel Truelove, and I am excited for the guest that we have today. International speaker, transformational speaker. He's doing amazing work, not only in the area that he is it New Jersey? Yeah, in New Jersey, but also across the country. He's well known in the mental health space as a mental health advocate. He's an author, very much so a profound speaker, and he's someone that I'm fortunate enough to call a friend of mine, someone that I can, bounce ideas off of, and someone that sharpens my saw to where we can both grow and advance. And so, without further ado, I'm excited to introduce my brother, none other than Mr. Nate Evans Jr. My man, how you doing today?
Hey man, I'm blessed, man, and honored, man, to be on this platform. I love the work you're doing. I try to tell you often how inspired I am by you, and I'm just grateful to be here, man. Excited to dive into this conversation, man.
Yeah, man, I'm excited too, and the same thing with you, man. I'm proud of everything that you're doing, and I know that today, being on here specifically today, is a blessing for me because I know you just went through a surgery, so I know that maybe still experiencing a little bit of discomfort and things like that, but you're pushing through, and I'm happy to hear that you're doing well. And so let's start there. I mean, we talk about resilience, and you got some current challenges you're facing. Tell me a little bit about the recovery, the injury. How's everything going with that?
Yeah, man, everything is going well. It's interesting because I'm a firm believer that I can't get on a stage or a platform and speak about a thing if I haven't grown through it. So I talk a lot about resilience. I'm talking about mental wellness, emotional wellness. It's like, okay, now I have to apply it to an immediate circumstance right now. I'm facing adversity right now. For those listening, I ruptured my Achilles playing ball. Um, I guess the body just isn't what it is. You know what I mean? What it was before. A move that I've done tens of thousands of times at this point. I heard a pop, instantly knew what it was because I had a similar injury about 2 years ago. And long story short, just got surgery a couple days ago, and first time ever getting like a major surgery. And I had a moment to just sit and just think, like, how am I going to mentally handle this situation? Because now I'm being exposed in the sense of, yo, you the guy that talk about resilience all the time. You're the guy that talks about, emotional wellness all the time, and emotional fluency all the time. How are you going to approach this? So now I'm able to display the things I'm teaching through how I'm living. It's one thing to get on the stage and speak a thing. It's another thing to have to walk that thing out. So I'm grateful to be in the mindset that I was in, because when the first injury happened a few years ago, I wasn't in this place mentally. I was frustrated, man. I was so upset because it was a month before my wedding. Yeah, it was a month before my wedding, and it was crazy because I didn't know that it was an Achilles rupture until after the wedding, after the honeymoon, when they was able to check me out. And I remember being depressed during that time, stress eating, talking down on myself, and I was in a really dark spot. And I made a conscious decision when I went to the emergency room this time. I said, "Nah, I have to handle this differently." So I'm in there joking with the nurses. I'm in there laughing with other patients. I said, "I'm gonna make the most of this situation because, again, I need to live out the things that I preach." So right now, I'm home recovering. I'm pretty much confined to the lower level of our home. Um, However, there's blessings all around us, right? We have a den, we have a living room, the kitchen's here, we have three bathrooms, there's a bathroom down here. So I've been really focused on what I do have, as opposed to what I'm lacking right now. No, I can't run. No, I can't even drive right now because it's my driving leg. However, I do have a home where I can rest my head. I do have a wife who's caring, who's nurturing, who's loving. My family's all around here. You know what I mean? I can still get up and speak. I can still use my voice, right? I can still take meetings. So it's a blessing, man. And it's allowed me the opportunity to rest, and just really get some things in order that I needed to get in order. I wanted to start reading more. That was a big goal for this year. I got the time now. Where am I going? You know what I mean? I have a book that I'm working on that I need to finish. I got the time now. Where am I going? So perspective, man, has completely shifted, and right now just optimistic about the recovery and really excited to continue to walk this journey out. Prayerfully, it blesses some people.
That's good. That's good, man. I'm sorry to hear the perspective you have, and like you said, approaching it differently because you're in a different space. And I think it's important for us to recognize, the times where we weren't in the space that we're in now. So, tell us a little bit about your journey to discovering what you now talk about through the lived experiences that you've had.
Yeah, man, I'll take you way back. A kid that grew up in South Jersey, grew up in poverty, what some would call the hood. Um, it was nine of us under one roof, three bedrooms. Went to five different. No, no, no. Actually, I went to nine different schools from first grade to high school. Was exposed to gangs, drugs, violence, molested as a kid, like exposed to so many different things. And I grew up in the type of community and household where you couldn't necessarily express your emotions, especially for a young black male. And I didn't have those examples around me. In fact, you can get disrespected by expressing your emotions. So a lot of stuff when I was younger, I just bottled it up. And my saving grace, my outlet was sports, basketball. I can always go to the basketball courts and just, if I'm upset, if I'm anxious, whatever it is, I just play ball. And while it's a healthy outlet, it did not fix the traumas and things like that, right? It was a mask. It was a band-aid over a much larger wound. And it served its purpose. However, there was a lot of healing that needed to take place. Fast forward, went to high school, played ball, played varsity, did my thing, all-star player, got scholarships, and I ended up getting a full ride to a school in Memphis, Tennessee, Division II called Lemoyne Owen College, and this was huge because I'm a first generation high school graduate. So my parents didn't graduate high school. They had me. They dropped out, started working, and just kind of doing their thing. I think they went back to like get their GEDs and stuff later, but I was the first one to reach that milestone. So there was a lot of pressure on me as well that I placed on myself as a trailblazer, right? Amongst all of the other traumas that I faced as a kid and stuff like that. Seeing people shot in front of me, losing friends to suicide, all of these things just kind of permeated in my mind, but I never expressed it out. This summer, before I was supposed to go down to school in Memphis, Tennessee, I ended up living with my grandfather. So I call him Pop Up, right? Me and him we were tight like this. Like that was my guy. Love my Pop Up to life. He was the kind of dude where I'd be like, Pop Up, can I get some money? The ice cream truck coming or something. He would tell me he doesn't have it while he's like pulling it out his pocket to give it to me. You know what I mean? He's like, I don't got no more money while he's like handing me a five. I'm just like, my guy. And one day I was coming home from playing ball and he was sitting on the couch in a lot of pain is what it looked like to me. And my younger brother was at the house. I have two younger brothers. One is 4 years younger than me. And I went up to him. I said, hey, Josh, how long is, Papa been sitting on the couch like this? Because I've been playing ball all day. I didn't know. He said, he's been like this since you left. And I got nervous, because it was only me, my brother, and my pop up at the house. And I'm like, all right, I think we gotta take him to the hospital. Now, my grandfather, I don't know about anybody else, but my grandfather was very much against hospitals and doctors, just that old school, unwise, just, it was nonsense, right? He just skipped doctor's appointments. If it ain't broke, if he can't see the wound, it's just like, it's fair game. Right. If he thought he felt good, it was like it was good enough. So I went to my brother. I'm like, yo, we gotta take him. He's like, all right, what we gonna do? He don't want to go. I said, look, I just started lifting weights. You know what I mean? Getting ready for college. My brother played football for a powerhouse like football program in New Jersey, so he was already lifting weights. I said, look, man, we're gonna go out there. I'm gonna count us down 3, 2, 1, and we just gonna grab him. Like he can't beat both of us. You know what I mean? Not at the same time. He can't take both of us. We pretty much grown now. You know what I mean? And he in pain. So we go out there. I count down. We grab him up, put him in the van. I get his insurance cards, his wallet, and I just got my license too. So I'm not the best driver, but I did get us to the hospital safely. I'll just say that. We get there. The anxiety starts to ease a little bit. So I'm like, okay, he's in a good place. We start making phone calls. We calling my dad, my aunts. Hey, look, pop-ups at the hospital. Get here quick. They come in, and the doctor comes from the back. He says, "Is this the Evans family?" This is us. He said, I have some challenging news. Mr. Evans has what's known as intestinal gangrene. Now, I'm 17 going on 18 at the time. I don't know what that means. Like, all right, doc, what's the next step? You gonna give him some medicine, some antibiotics? Like, what do we do? And he was like, you don't understand. See, what he has is a bacterial infection, and it's eating away at his intestines. And there's nothing we can do to stop it or slow it down. He said, Mr. Evans won't make it to the morning, and you may want to say your goodbyes. And man, it was as if, imagine this water bottle right here. Imagine this is filled with, I don't know, Sprite or something, your favorite soda, and you shake, shake, shake it, and you open that top. What happens? Explodes everywhere. And at that moment, I felt like life had been shaking me for years, just shaking me. And when he said that, it was as if somebody started to just crack that top, bro. And everything just poured out. Now, I didn't go like wild. Like I didn't start screaming and crying and none of that. It was almost like I imploded and something inside of me kind of just like broke. So I started to just do stuff that was out of my character, drinking, smoking, whatever it was, man. I would started to do things that I typically wouldn't do, trying to mask the pain. And I still had to go down to school. I still had to go to Memphis, Tennessee. First plane I ever took of my life. I got down there and I just wasn't focused, man. Mentally and emotionally, I was all over the place. I wasn't going to class. I was not really bringing my full self to basketball practice. And I'm on a full ride scholarship. My parents can't afford school. About 3 or 4 months into school, I went to the coach and said, "Man, I got to leave." And he was so confused because I'm on a full ride scholarship. Like I was heavily recruited. And I was like, "Man, I just got to go. I need to go back home." And he allowed me to leave the team. Ended up coming back home, forfeiting the scholarship, played in a few basketball tournaments in Jersey, got another full ride scholarship, this time to play basketball in New Mexico. Get all the way to New Mexico. I'm there for about a year, and I leave that school too. And I'm starting to think, like, all right, what's going on? See, at the time, what I did not understand was that everywhere you go, there you are. I didn't understand that. So I constantly tried to outrun myself. And in total, I went to 5 different colleges just trying to outrun Nate, outrun my traumas, outrun my pains. It wasn't because I wasn't smart or athletic or any of those things. It was me trying to run from everything that was affecting me and bringing about depression and anxiety and suicidal ideations. I just tried to run from it instead of taking the time to address it, right? Instead of taking the time to utilize the resources. All of these colleges had counseling departments. I could have talked to somebody a long time ago, but I was raised in a way where we just didn't talk about those things, man. And it wasn't until I hit this fork in the road moment where I could no longer play basketball. Ended up tearing a bunch of ligaments in my ankle, had to be in a boot, and that was the first time I just sat with my thoughts. And I was like, yo, why am I talking to myself like this? Where are these thoughts even coming from? Where did this derive from? And I made a decision in that moment. I was like, I have to stop running. I have to address these thoughts. I have to address this depression. And I made that decision, man, from that day forward to figure out what healing looks like for me. And it wasn't an easy journey, but it was necessary, and it was probably the best decision I ever made in my life.
So, what are some of the things that you learned on your journey that you still keep with you to this day?
Yeah, yeah. One of the main things I learned was um, that vulnerability is a superpower as long as it's intentional, right? Not just promiscuous vulnerability where you just sharing all of your stuff, just empty in the closet. No, vulnerability is powerful when you have the right intentions for it, right? Like speaking up when you're really going through some stuff. I thought strength growing up was the dude that was Diesel. You know what I mean? I thought it was being tough and all of these different. It's like, nah, those are easy. Those come natural to me. But me speaking about the things that I'm going through to seek help, that was extremely hard. But over time, constantly doing that, I began to get stronger in that space of vulnerability. And I started to feel lighter as a result of it. You know what I mean? So that was one of the main ones. And one more was someone's really waiting on who you're becoming. And a lot of times we block that and we block those blessings and those prayers that other people have because we're too afraid to take the necessary steps to heal. It's so much bigger than I realized that my healing was so much bigger than just me. It impacted everything around me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, can you walk me through that a little bit? Like someone's waiting on your healing journey. Like, elaborate on that a little bit more if you don't mind.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, man. I'll give you a really quick story. I my first book ever was called Building Muscle Life as Your Trainer. And I look at it now and I'm like, man, that was a really poorly done book. However, yeah, it was rough, man. It was the fonts were all messed up. It had typos all in it because I didn't really understand the editing process. But I got the book done. I ended up typing the entire book on an iPad Mini that was cracked because my laptop broke at the time. So I'm a personal trainer at the time. In between clients, I'm writing this book, just sharing my story. And I ended up getting the entire thing done. Again, I I wish I had a copy of it somewhere. It's upstairs in my office, but when I say rough, it was rough, man. Like it just looked so unprofessional. But a kid at the Covenant House of New Jersey, which is a shelter for homeless teens, got a copy of that book. And I had this opportunity to speak at the Covenant House of New Jersey um, to do like a men's group. So I go there, I speak, I share my story, I'm pouring into the men, and he pulls me aside afterwards. It's like, hey, I just want to let you know that you really saved my life. And I'm like, what? Like, I know my story was I came in here and did my thing, but I didn't sense that. He was like, man, this book right here, I read this book 10 times. And I went through a very similar circumstance. And just seeing someone who went through what I went through and got through it, it helped save me. I had no idea, right? I had no idea that me going through my healing journey and then pushing through to get this thing out into the world would be pretty much an answer to someone's prayer. So that's what I mean when it's like, yo, somebody's waiting on you. Somebody's waiting on you to heal. Somebody's waiting on what you're building. Somebody's waiting on who you will become. You may not know them personally. You may not meet them today. You may not meet them ever, but somebody's waiting and somebody needs that. So with that mindset, it's just like, okay, let me get out of my own way and let me not block somebody else's blessing because I have something they may need that can help them on their journey. And we've experienced the other half of that from somebody else. I think about the Dr. Eric Thomases of the world. It's like, man, if he didn't heal and grow and go through his journey, there was a lot of motivation from him that I held on to tight that got me through some dark seasons. But I would have never experienced that if he didn't grow through his situation. So it's like a domino effect.
That's good. Now, as you're talking about this, was it a challenge for you to? Because I mean, trauma is not one of those things that most people want to run to. Like you mentioned, running away from those things. Tell me about the process of stop moving in one direction and then turning around and facing Nate. Like, what are some of the things that, as you went back through your past and the challenges that you faced, some of the things that you've experienced, or I mean, expressed already? What was that like? And somebody that's listening here, that maybe is running away from, the things that they've experienced. Like, tell me about turning around and deciding that you're going to look you in the face and you're not going to be afraid of what you're about to run towards versus running away from.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll say this first. It's not as bad as you think it is. I think we come to it with assumptions, right? And that's why we continue to run. Once I stopped assuming and I addressed me, while it was challenging, I realized it wasn't as bad as I was making it up in my mind, right? And when I started to really address the issues and the things that I was going through, there was this level of comfort as if I was loving on the younger version of myself who desperately needed it, right? I firmly believe we all have that inner child, that needs us to show up and be like, hey, you know what? You're good now. I'm protecting you now. You don't have to worry about that now. And for me, that was huge, man. To talk to that 13-year-old, that 12-year-old, that 11-year-old, to let you know you're safe, to let you know, look, we here now. I got you. I have the comprehension to go ahead and just step up now. It's transformative, man. It's transformative, and it's interesting because it's a work that only we can do. I can't pass it off to nobody else. Yeah, you can give me insights, you can share your wisdom, but at the end of the day, I have to look in that mirror and love the person that I see on the other side of that thing. And that requires that level of work, of you being very intentional about pouring into yourself, right? About making yourself a priority.
You've kind of gone from that inner work that you've done, and now you've kind of seen some of those dominoes that have kind of fallen because you've been able to reach and impact the lives of thousands of other people. But it seems like the beginning portion of that journey was, you going to this. I think he may have said, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was a group home that you went to, the Covenant House, and you doing that work, and now you've been transparent about sharing your journey with others. Um, that's not easy, because I think the kind of things that we run away from, if we stay away from those, we can never share, the parts of us that are the healing places for other people to realize that they're not the only ones. So, tell me a little bit about, you sharing your journey with other people, and kind of some of the, not only just the responses, but what's healing has taken place in other people's lives because you decided to heal.
Yeah, I'll say this, man. I'm an introvert. So a lot of people don't know that I'm super introverted, man. I I never seen myself growing up to be in this position. I thought that I would just be playing sports, maybe coach down the line, but that's it. But when God called me to this space, man, I realized how impactful my story, my words, my presence could be in the space, man. And for me, man, I can go so many different directions. For me, I'm realizing the power of experience in regards to your story and not just theory. Like how we really relate to the experience of others and people see themselves within what you're sharing. It's so transformative. And for me, that was tough at first because I was introverted and I didn't want to be judged by what I would share. So I was a little afraid at first. I'm like, all right, should I share that? All right, okay, let me, and I would just kind of ease my way in, right? And it's like, okay, they feeling that. Okay, let me share a little bit more, right? Because again, I was afraid of like, hey, if I give you this, will you look at me differently? Like if I tell you, hey, as a kid, I was molested, and it kind of shaped my, like, how would you look at me? Do you look at me any different than you did before? And it took for me, it took a little while for me to get comfortable enough to be in a space where I just stopped caring. Not that I didn't care about the opinions of others, but it's like I knew that more people were hurting if I did not share the things that I needed to share. You know what I mean? So it was more people hurting than the people who would judge me. So I started to share more and I watched how transformative it's been. And I'll be honest, I still haven't fully grasped like the impact that sharing in my story and just speaking in general has, man. I've been in places where I've spoken to corporate leaders and had people fall in my arms, like crying, because I spoke to their inner child. I spoke to situations that they've been through. I was I did a school tour, a mini school tour in Virginia last year. And man, it was just so transformative at all of those schools of what the students were going through and how they felt free after I shared. They felt seen, they felt heard. You know what I mean? I had students ask me to pray for them. Like it was so deep, man, and I'm still blown away almost every time. Cuz I leave the stages, I leave the platforms, I leave the microphone and I'm like, ah, man, I feel like I didn't give them my all. And then you get this response of like, man, you have no idea. Like I was going through this. I was thinking about, harming myself. And something led me to the auditorium. And I'm so glad I heard this. And I just feel free now. And I wanna live. And it's just like, man, it's wild, man, the power and the impact that your story and your words can have. And for me, I'm learning to not allow that to go to my head either. Because I realize it's not me. Let's just put that on Front Street. I'm simply just a vessel with a message. I'm not deep. I'm not none of those things. I come in here and I believe God knows he can trust me to get this message across to you in the way that you understand it. Anything else that happens, out of my control. So I don't go into rooms like, I'm gonna make him cry today. You know what I mean? I'm gonna go in there. I'm about to transform your life today. It's like, bro, look, I got some stuff to share. I'm gonna obviously fill out the room and feel the energy in the room, see what's going on. I'm gonna pour my heart out. But your response is that's really not my responsibility. But every single time that response is powerful, man. And it's a constant reminder that I'm moving in the right direction.
That's good. So, how would you encourage somebody else to go on that, that journey? Because you have educators, and you and I do, similar work, and so you have educators that have students that are wearing these masks. They're experiencing some of the things that you've experienced, some of the things that I've experienced, and even some of the things that educators have experienced. But there's this fear that if I am vulnerable, I've heard it communicated like this before: is transparency is sharing something that's true about yourself. And so, what? Hey, I had a rough morning. That's transparency. But vulnerability is like giving someone a loaded gun and trusting that they're not going to use that against you. And so, yeah, so you vulnerability as an educator, as somebody that desires to be able to impact others, is you sharing those parts of you that don't feel good, those ugly parts of your life, but it's not for you. It's not, you're not sharing it for you. And so, how would you encourage somebody that is in a position to impact the lives of others, but yet they are nervously, anxiously regretting or just trying to avoid me putting my truth on the table?
Yeah, it's simple, man. I tell people all the time, your story is about you, but it's not for you. It's for someone else, right? It's not for you. The details are definitely about you, but it's actually to help someone else. And I love that you said about transparency and vulnerability. I like to break it down like this: like transparency is me opening the windows to my house and allowing you to see from the outside looking in. But if I'm going to be vulnerable, I need to let you in the house and show you the rooms that you wouldn't see from the outside. That's really what it boils down to get to that place where you feel safe enough, where you feel confident enough to share those things, man. And again, once we take the focus off of how do I look doing this thing, you'll just reach people because you're trying to go in there and actually help. So again, it goes back to, yeah, my story's about me. Yeah, I went through this. Yeah, I battled with suicide and depression. Yeah, I went to 5 different colleges. Yeah, I dropped out. Yeah, I lost this. But this isn't about me. This story is really for you. and I want to share how I was able to get through those things for your benefit. So it's big on how can I use what I have to serve.
And so, man, you've been serving and serving well. You not only have spoken internationally, but also uh, did your TED talk. I can't go throughout this without acknowledging that you're a TEDx speaker. So tell me a little bit about kind of that experience and what you shared because you mentioned it earlier, talking about emotional fluency. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, man. I was very fortunate and blessed to do a TEDx talk. It was crazy because I was going through the TEDx website, just looking for talks to apply for, and one came up in New Jersey. I'm like, okay, let me see if I can get in. And I went to apply, and come to find out, the event organizer already knew who I was. So she was like, "Yeah, I would definitely love to have you." So I ended up not having to necessarily do the application process, but just being on board. And TEDx is, or TED in general, it's just a very different platform for speakers. It's not your typical go in there and share a message and a story. It's very structured. It's very formatted. And it's one of the first times where I ever had to just like memorize a speech, which I don't do. I have my outlines. You know how we do. You got your outlines, but you're going in there, you're filling out the space, and you're gonna do your thing. This is like verbatim. Like you need to know what you're about to say when you get up there. You get anywhere between like 10 to 15 minutes. I think they gave us like 12 or 13. And it's interesting because you go out on the TEDx stage and there's a small audience there that they invite out, but you can't interact with the audience, if that makes sense. So you're actually talking to the camera the entire time. You're not even acknowledging that the audience is there. You're literally talking to the camera. So my wife was there, my cousin. We had a few people come out, and I'm used to, like you said, talking to the audience, really communicating and connecting. The entire time you're standing on this red circle and you're staring at the camera and you are blocking out everybody in the room and you're speaking to the tens of thousands of millions of people online. And that was a little nerve wracking for me. I'm not gonna lie, because I'm used to maneuvering a different way. But it was a great way to sharpen my skills as a communicator and really get a message across that I felt like was really important. Emotional fluency, especially for Black boys, is something that wasn't necessarily recognized and talked about. And I made a decision when they gave me the opportunity for the TEDx platform. I was like, I need to use this not to try to promote my business or my speaking skills. I need to use this global platform to get a message across that I believe is very, very important and relevant for today. And I did just that, and it was cool, man. I had a lot of other great speakers with us. It was like 12 of us. We had a great time because you got to do rehearsals and build together and all of these things. So it was cool, man. And then my talk went out. It reached people, and it actually opened a lot of doors for me, especially in the corporate space. Um, from that talk, I ended up booking like a keynote gig in Chicago, which is like now a huge base for me for clientele. I go out there a few times a year, and I did this huge gig for a bunch of social workers, doctors, law enforcement, people who are a lot more qualified than me. I went in there and spoke to them because of the power of the TEDx platform and my message. So it was a really, really cool experience. I'm hoping to do another one soon. But it's definitely like nothing I've ever done before. You know what I mean? Especially for speaking. It was just like, this is like, you got to walk out a certain way, you got to stand, pose a certain way, and then you're talking to that camera. And it's funny because for a lot of the TED Talks and other places, they have the confidence monitors. So for those that don't know, a confidence monitor is pretty much like your slides on a TV monitor that sits in the crowd. So you can kind of glance at them and kind of pull up the information. We didn't have one. So we had people in the audience who took big poster boards and wrote bullet points on them. So when you went up to spoke, you can like quickly glance at your bullet point and keep your flow going. So it was a really good experience, man. And I'm forever grateful for the TEDx platform. what it's allowed me to do, it exposed me to, because that's a major platform all around the world. There's TED and there's TEDx, so it's been really really cool.
That's awesome, man. And so, as a mental health advocate, what is something that you would want people to know about tapping into their mental wellness, or even making their mental health, their mental wellness a priority for them?
I think one of the most important things is for us to learn to have grace for ourselves. Today is the oldest I've ever been. You know what I mean? And a lot of times we put this pressure on ourselves to expect to know a lot of certain things. And I'm learning now to really have grace for myself. And it's helped me tremendously with my mental health, because you take that burden off of yourself, right? You start to treat yourself with love. You start to care for yourself more, and you prioritize yourself more. So for me, having that grace every once in a while to be like, yo, you know what? Today is a day you need to just chill and watch some TV. It's all good. You ain't got to run 24/7. You ain't got to go, 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 chase the money. Every once in a while, you just need to sit back and pop on a video game and just allow your mind to just be at ease. And actually, I learned what that meant too, like real rest, right? Not just sleep. I'm not talking sleep. Plenty of people are getting sleep, but they're not rested. And my therapist actually helped me to figure this out. She said you're really at rest when you're doing things that don't necessarily strain you. So for me, going back to my first love, basketball, that was a form of me like resting and self-care. Like even now, I mean, obviously not now with the surgery, but even now, just going to the courts and just shooting around for an hour, my mind would be at so much ease. I'm not thinking about what I got to do. I'm not rushing to the next thing. I'm not anxious about tomorrow. I'm just at ease. And I think for, those watching, those listening, we have to find more things that allow us to be at ease, because we live in such a highly stressful world. Everything's so demanding, right? But it's like the more time you have for ease, the more productive you'll actually be when it comes time for you to work. So for me, I prioritize that ease, that rest, that self care, especially as a mental health advocate. I think it's important.
Good, that's good. I think something that you mentioned, it brings me back to something that I recently learned, and going through a course right now, and one of the guys that was over it was telling us that everybody is doing their best, and I had to wrestle with that. I'm like, no, everybody's not doing their best, because I'm not doing I can be doing more. And he's like, no, he's like, if you could do more, you would. And so I'm sitting here, I'm like wrestling with that. I was like, if I could do more, I would. Um, and I was like, well, and he was like, because everybody does what they're able to do. And I was like, well, I know that the gym is good, but I haven't been going to the gym. And he said, and somewhere you haven't identified that the gym is good for you. He says, because if you identify yourself as someone that goes to the gym, you ever seen these guys, big buff guys? He says they identify with that. And so you would be doing that if that was a part of your identity. And so everybody at whatever stage they're at, whatever they're doing, those behaviors, those actions, that's something that they identify with. And with that, they're doing their best. And for me, I'm like, man, so when you talk about grace, there's sometimes where I'm like, dang, I could have done more. And they're like, no, no, no. Like yesterday, today, you did your best. And even with my wife, it's like, being married, it's like your wife every single day, she's doing her best, man. That has completely transformed the way that I see myself and the way that I see other people, having that empathy and gaining understanding that, like, whatever it is they're doing, they're trying their best. And now you have the ability to be able to give them the grace they deserve, not casting judgment on you thinking their effort should be different. It's completely mind blowing for me, man. And so I love what you just said, because now it's me walking into that more and giving myself grace, and also like truly resting and caring about that more than I'm caring about all the other things that I'm trying to do. So, man, this has been good. I definitely appreciate all the gems. Like I'm gonna have to go back and listen to this one myself. just to make sure that I can get everything that I'm supposed to get out of it. But we kind of land the plane at the end of our segments with this called Better Days Ahead. And what that is for anybody that's listening, whether they're watching it, whatever the case may be, that maybe they're going through some adversity or maybe they just need some encouragement. What encouragement do you have for them that, that there are better days ahead?
I'll leave them with this, and it's a question. I believe that we ask ourselves questions all day long. A lot of times when we aren't intentional, they're not empowering questions. They're more self-defeating. So the question that I want you to ask yourself, if you're watching or listening is, what if it all works out? I think that's a very powerful question. What if it all works out? Because 9 times out of 10, it's always worst case scenario with everything. You know what I mean? So if you are intentional, and I do this and I'm very intentional, right? I have reminders on my phone that pop up every few hours with these kind of questions throughout my day because I know that I'm not too far removed from the days of depression, right? I'm not this dude that's just like, oh man, he just mastered it, he beat it. I have to be intentional every day. So I have these things that pop up on my phone. What if it all works out? You know what I mean? It's going to get better. I think that it's important that we ask ourselves those things, because it's always, what if everything falls apart? What if this happens? What if I don't make it? What if I lose my job? What if my mental health never gets better? What if my kids never grow? All of these things, and then your energy follows that. But just stop, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, yo, what if it all just works out well? That's a different space to operate from. And you live from that positive space and watch your actions follow, man, your life will change. And I'm not talking from theory. This is practical stuff that Nate has done because I remember being in those super dark places, beating myself down. And I had to ask myself, Nate, what if it all works out? And my life now has been a pretty much a manifestation of questions like that.
That's good. That's good. And so we end our segments on the wisdom and the advice that we just got for everybody else. And so for anybody out there, whether you're listening, whether you're watching this, ask yourself the question today: what if it all works out? And I would actually like to take that a step further, and I want to speak into your life. You who is listening to this, you who are watching this, it's going to work out. It is going to work out. We thank you so much for your time. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching it. Nate, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your wisdom. Man, I appreciate this. To everybody, this is another segment of Mindset on Resilience. We're out. Until next time.